sound check with our online participants, because we are trying to make a hybrid event here, which is not an easy task, of course. So if you could write in the chat, and I'm now talking to online participants, if everything's fine, if you can hear as well, that would be perfect. Yes, okay, so that means we can start. Hello, everyone. My name is Ewa Kocińska-Lange, and I have a pleasure together with my team, who you see all around, run the office of NCBR in Brussels. NCBR is, like you can see, a Center for Research and Development. That's the R&I funding agency in Poland. And we are here to support mostly our beneficiaries and applicants in applying to Horizon Europe, but not exclusively. And this is a perfect example of broadening a bit our perspective. And we are very happy and keen to listen to and to talk to Patryk Schneider-Sikorski, and he's the partner at NATO Innovation Fund. So still very Brussels related, but also a bit of London related and a bit of Warsaw related as well.
And Amsterdam.
And Amsterdam.
Well.
Okay.
And Luxembourg.
Okay. So
yes.
It's Europe. We will talk about NATO Innovation Fund ambitions, plans, and also famous recently Diana Accelerator. The scenario of the event is very simple. So first, I will have a short introduction to you, and then I will give you the floor for a bit of a kind of introductory speech, and then the floor is basically yours. And I'm now talking also to online participants. We are very open to your questions. So of course, in the room, very traditional way, just raise your hand, please, and speak loud so everybody can hear you, also online. And for the people online, you can use the chat, and please do so. Ask questions via the chat, and then we will manage them. And we have 1 hour for this interesting exchanges, I think. So without further ado, I would just like to introduce again Patryk to you. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for coming. And Patryk is responsible for capacity building at the NATO Innovation Fund, and is responsible also for Central and Eastern Europe coverage. And I already know that you travel between London and Warsaw, and exclusively, and not exclusively, because also other cities. And you work also quite closely with startups and VCs, of course, and Diana. That's why we have you with us, and also industry and government partners to be sure that the NIF is delivering on this very ambitious mission to boost the deep tech entrepreneurship and foster innovation. And you were previously a partner at Beast Ventures, so it's quite an experience in the VC market, also working with deep startup companies in Europe, and investing in startups in food security, health, AI, data, autonomous systems, and biotech. So it's quite a vast portfolio. And now the floor is yours. So
yes.
Please introduce us all to NATO Innovation Fund as such.
Yes,
and
you've already done a very good
questions.
job, but I think I can add to it a bit. So yes, I'm one of the first partners at the NATO Innovation Fund, which is €1 billion multi-sovereign venture capital fund, set up and designed by NATO as a standalone fund, and backed by 23 NATO allies to invest in deep tech across the alliance. And so we are a venture capital fund, but we also have a far broader and I would say in some ways greater mission than just to invest in startups. So we've been set up to drive adoption of deep technologies across the alliance, and particularly within the member states that have invested in the fund. We're also hoping to build capacity in parts of the alliance where we feel that there isn't enough attention paid to venture capital, and there aren't enough deep tech startups. We are also one of our other main missions is to basically to promote, but also to protect innovation within NATO. So to enhance economic security when it comes to intellectual property, and particularly these very crucial technologies that we do not want to get into the hands of our adversaries. So that's very high level what we're looking at. In terms of the actual technologies, so NATO has identified 9 EDTs. See if I remember them all, because there are quite a few. So there's artificial intelligence, autonomy, quantum, biotech and human enhancement, hypersonics, space, novel materials, energy and propulsion, and next-gen communication networks. When it comes to the stage of funding, we look at anything where we say, broadly speaking, we invest early stage. So that really is anything from seed to Series B. A lot of the companies that we're looking at are in fact Series A, but we'll take it on a case by case basis. So that's our kind of overarching investment strategy. And yeah, we're still just getting set up. We were officially announced in July, but we're building out our team. We're building out our pipeline. We're already speaking to companies and we're speaking to funds. Yes, I should also mention that besides doing direct investments in startups, we do investments in VC funds, particularly with a particular focus on emerging managers in deep tech, and also parts of NATO where there isn't enough deep tech venture capital activity. So we have a sizable allocation for fund investments as well. So that's
okay.
Sort of the broad overview.
Yes.
So, but I'm sure people have far more specific questions, so happy to answer that.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, you are free to ask questions whenever you feel like. But I think I will kick off the discussion with some questions that we already prepared before or received from you during registration as well. I think that what's actually also attracting a lot of attention is this Diana.
Yes.
It has quite some ambitious goals. If you could just also explain a bit what's behind Diana and why you decided to start an accelerator for
so just to be clear, we didn't start Diana. NATO started Diana.
Yeah.
So NATO set us up, and they also set up Diana. There's a difference between us in terms of the way we're structured. So we're a venture capital fund that sits outside of NATO, but is part of NATO's innovation ecosystem and works very closely with NATO, and is backed by NATO allies. Diana's part of NATO itself. The difference, I guess, the difference when it comes to our involvement with startups is that we are VC investors. We take equity in companies. Diana gives non-dilutive funding, and they're structured in a way. They're structured around challenge programs. So they, for example, I think they recently released 3 challenges in secure information sharing, energy resilience, and sensing and surveillance. And they have a great kind of very structured process where startups can look at the requirements of the challenge, look at the type of potential capabilities that are looking to be developed, and then they can apply for funding, and that funding is non-dilutive, as I say. So, whereas what we do is an investment, and so we're on the cap table of the company. We're involved in the governance of the business, and we'll probably be involved in the business quite longer term than an accelerator would. But having said that, we work closely with them. They're like our cousin organization. They look at companies probably at an earlier stage that are at an earlier stage than a lot of the ones that we look at. But there will be some overlap, and we are we see them as a great source of potential ideas, of potential investments, of innovation, and also of just collaboration with NATO as well.
Yeah. So it could be that someone is starting as a company with an accelerator, like the support that the company can get, and then maybe there's a second step, and then NATO Innovation Fund could intervene and support.
Yes, that's what that is. That's the plan. That's the intention. 100%.
Okay, let's look into questions. As far as I can see, nothing in the room, so I will just now check the chat. What we have here. Hope it will also be visible on the screen at a certain moment at least. Yes, it is. So this is more like a kind of a very general question, but I think it's like a question like, how do you start? You know, like how do you work, and how do you look for those potential technologies across the alliance?
How do we source how do we source deals? Well, so obviously we encourage companies to contact us initially, obviously via our website, via our participating allies. So we have very strong relationships with with people involved in innovation in the actual member states that have invested in the fund. So that's another route. We obviously we also operate like a traditional VC in many regards too. So all of us have VC funds that we've co-invested with in the past, and we share similar ideas about technologies, and so I would say that we'd get recommendations from them as well. So it's multiple sources, but we want to keep our application process as open and as fair as possible. So I would say anyone can apply and contact us. But in terms of how we decide and look at and assess companies, we want deep tech is not a lot of the deep tech companies we're looking at will not necessarily be at the stage where they're generating a lot of revenue. So we look at potential applications both within defense, security, and resilience, but also within a broader commercial market. So so that would be and again we would look at how they would fit into the 9 EDTs that I mentioned earlier. So it's a sort of multi faceted process, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. So you look wherever you can, basically.
Well, yeah, absolutely. There's no. I mean, as long as the companies are within NATO, and we have a more specific mandate to mostly invest within the 23 countries that have backed the fund. So Poland being one of them, obviously.
Yeah, okay. So you just mentioned that, but I think it's worth maybe underlining like the simplest way to contact you is just via the website.
Or via LinkedIn or via email. You have my email, so anyone who's on anyone who's in the audience or online can contact you, and you can connect us.
Okay. Yeah. That's also very useful to know, I think, for everyone. Yeah. Okay, let's go to another question online. Just let me manage this. That was not what I seen. Yep. So. It's more like, of course, a discussion that it's happening always, I would say, about the dual use technologies. And so, of course, in the current situation, this is also growing again. And there is a potential. What's in that? So what's your framework to work with those technologies and also with companies that are active in the defense innovation sector?
So, I'm just looking at the questions. One question is with civilian companies, and another is with defense companies. Yeah. So, what is it? I guess it's how we work with the different types.
With the different types. Yeah.
So, I mean, we're a deep tech fund that's focused on startups that have potential dual use applications. So, in some cases, those would be new defense tech type companies, but in many cases, and I would say the majority of cases, these are companies that have a defense or what we like to call security and resilience application vis-a-vis government, but also have like a large commercial application too. So I think that there are a lot of companies within Europe and a lot of technologies and founders within Europe who who could contribute to the mission of NIF and the mission of NATO. Obviously, they have to be aligned and they have to be motivated. We don't want to force people to work to look at dual use applications if that's not what they're interested in. But we think that this is a very important time to be doing this, and we believe that anyone in Europe who's developing a very powerful deep technology should consider a dual use application. And if they do, they could contact us, and we would look at it as a potential investment and find ways to connect them with the right people within government.
Okay. Yeah, some people, the questions also coming live from the people online, but like we were talking about this dual use a bit, and I saw there was a question. I'm just looking for it now. I think that this is probably this one. So it's like we are mostly used to the cases that was some innovation that happened on the level of military, and then it was used in the civilian world. And do you have examples of the other way around?
Yes.
Like,
it's definitely shifted. So I heard a statistic earlier at this event that I was attending, which is that historically, I guess maybe in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, especially in the US, I think 90% of new breakthrough technologies had military applications first, and 10% civilian. Now it's the other way around. So now it's again, don't quote me on that. I heard someone mention it earlier, but it seems to be right that the most new breakthrough technologies are developed within the civilian sector, and fewer in the military sector. But one good example of a technology or product that was developed initially for civilian use and that is now has huge military applications is drone technology. So we've seen the use of drones, particularly in Ukraine, but in other conflicts. They were not developed by the military, but now they're being very heavily adopted by the military, and they're changing the nature of war. So that's probably the most striking example, I would say.
Yeah, true. So just checking for possible questions in the room. Yes, please.
So I have a question. How do you envision your future portfolio? I mean, you're just starting, right? So building it up, but in the future, in terms of diversity, do you plan to allocate, certain part for, let's say, earlier stage companies versus later between these 9 areas that you mentioned, or maybe some quotas for the partnering countries? Is there any idea?
So, yes, I mean, I guess that we have a way of looking at that. I can't give you an exact number or quota or breakdown, but I think that we're obviously heavily motivated to drive adoption, and so drive adoption of these technologies by government. And so in some cases we will look at later stage technologies which are higher TRL that are ready to be adopted and used, and so I would say that would be a later stage investment, more like a Series B. And then there are other technologies that are very nascent and that teams that are relatively new where it's going to take more time, but we still see great strategic potential, and so we would maybe invest in those at seed stage. But as far as geography is concerned, we really want to do a lot of investments in Central and Eastern Europe and Southern Europe to build capacity in those regions. And so, again, if there are ecosystems that are maybe a little bit less mature than countries like UK or Germany, and there isn't such a strong deep tech capital pool, we would look at earlier stage companies there.
Okay, thank you. There is a question coming now live from participant, and this is about possible coordination between NATO and European Commission when it comes to choosing topics and thematic areas. Is it happening, or is?
Well, so we don't. So we're not representing NATO directly. We don't have an influence over how they interact with the European Commission. So that is their mandate, not ours. But I'd say that there's so much overlap. If you look at also the topics that the US government has chosen and or the technologies that they've highlighted as being highly strategic, I'd say that they're like 90% the same across the board. So there is, I think there's consensus. I don't think that. I mean, there is, and I'm sure there is coordination as well, but or conversation at least. But I think the technologies speak for themselves. I think if there's something that's if there's an area where there's a lot of disagreement over whether it's strategic or not, or whether it's worth investing in and worth fostering from both from a policy and venture capital perspective, then it's probably not one to be included, I would say. But
there's actually one other question that is partly linked with that, but going into more on one of the key current policies, which is the EU Green Deal. And do you have any kind of reflections, or do you also see the effects of that policy on your possible ideas and companies you're funding?
Yes, I mean, we have one of the EDTs is energy and propulsion, and so there's a lot of overlap between the between the technologies that we'd be looking to invest in that can could be transformative from an energy perspective, and could also massively reduce emissions, for example. So those ones are quite easy to identify. When it comes to things like electrification of vehicles and alternate fuel sources, again, we're highly motivated and interested in those technologies, as long as it doesn't affect the operational capabilities of our defense community. And I think that's going to be largely led by them, and we will respond to that.
Okay. Any question in the room at the moment? Yes, there is one, please.
I'm investing in some SMRs, and we know that there is a quite heavy investment in the US. I mean, to what extent we are ready to provide huge capital investments in firms for this kind of technology?
So I would say that fits into one of our EDT areas. So we haven't made any investments yet. So we're not. I'd say we're not investing in anything just yet. We're looking at a lot of deals. So that would definitely be relevant. When it comes to technologies like that and businesses like that, some of them are incredibly capital intensive, and so it would have to make sense from a venture capital perspective. But certainly we would look at it.
Okay. Questions are popping up, but I wanted first to actually follow up on your something you mentioned as well, but at the beginning, but it would be maybe good to hear a bit more, since of course we are in a Polish office, about your strategy towards Central and Eastern European countries. Is there some specific effort that you're undertaking now, or why this policy is needed in that sense?
So there's two questions.
Yes.
Is there an effort, and why is the policy needed? Yeah. So there is an effort. As I said, as I mentioned earlier, we are just getting set up at the moment. So, but we have set up an office in Warsaw, and I'm going to be spending a lot more time there. I've already been there many times this year, and we hope that the Warsaw office will be the Central and Eastern European hub for the region. And so we want to attract startups and also VCs from all over the region to convene there and come and pitch us and show us what they're working on. Obviously, there's a huge pool of STEM talent in Eastern Europe. There's fantastic research institutes and universities. There's been more venture capital in places like Poland and Romania and the Baltics and our other Central CE partners. But we would like to see more deep tech investment in the region, and so we hope that our presence will encourage other VCs to raise funds focused on deep tech and dual use, and will attract more capital into the region, because ultimately we will do investments, but we need others to follow us too.
Yeah.
So that's the high level strategy.
Kind of disrupt the market a bit in that sense. Okay.
Yes.
So there are some questions, a set of them. So I will try to maybe go with them a bit one by one. There is a question that it's actually going more to quantum, like about some details about possible quantum domain. There is another one that it's asking for a bit more like life science possibilities.
Yeah. So
in your
I can
interest.
answer either of those.
Yeah, and the last one, sorry, is like a bit of a similar kind of thing, but this is now going into more offensive technology things. So, like, if you could gather this all, and
should I start with the
quantum,
first one?
life sciences,
so quantum,
and this one.
Well, quantum is one of the DTs, and so it's it's an area we're very excited about. One of my partners has done several quantum deals, and so he's particularly focused on that area. But yes, I mean we'll be investing across that domain. At the moment, I'm looking at a post-quantum cryptography startup.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not quantum computing, but it is relating very heavily correlated to the advent of quantum computing. And so that's one area I'm particularly excited about as well.
Okay, then there was this life science question. Let me just put it back. Yep.
Yeah. Yes, they are of interest, 100%. So again, sorry to go back to the EDTs, but biotech and human enhancement is one of them. We're particularly interested in startups that are combating potential infectious diseases and pandemic preparedness and so on. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at a company at the moment that I would call it a biodefense company, because they have a rapid diagnostics tool that can detect any pathogen relatively within a few minutes, and so we see that as a key part of NATO's biodefense strategy. I'd say we also look, maybe we would look less at areas of life science that don't have a dual use application. So things around maybe things around like chronic diseases and non-infectious related conditions. We feel that there's a very good venture capital ecosystem already for investing in those technologies, and we support that, but they're not necessarily within our strategy. But yeah, anything around biodefense and infectious diseases would be.
That would be. And the last question, at least for the moment, from this series was going back to offensive technology.
Yeah. So we are more focused, I would say, on defense as opposed to offensive technologies. So and security. So that would not be a core part of our strategy.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, please, again.
So you described these 9 EDTs, and they cover quite a broad range of topics and technologies. So I'm wondering how your evaluation process will look like, also in terms of building, whether you plan to build internal capabilities to assess the technologies.
Yeah,
work with certain experts.
Yeah, so I guess it's a bit of both. I mean, within the investment team, we have quite a lot of experience of investing in many of the technology areas that NATO has identified. So, but we plan to work with external experts and also NATO's science and technology office. So, which has 4,000. I think it has up to 4,000 researchers within its network. So we have a lot of access to people that we can go to help us with the assessment process. So, and that's also part of we see that as part of our offering when it comes to co-investors, because we plan to lead on a lot of these investments, and so we want to be able to provide that level of assurance and due diligence to everyone and to the broader ecosystem as well.
Okay, there's the question going more into the nature of NATO, which is defensive. So are you planning to maybe find some technologies that would block war financing? Is it actually of your interest as well?
Yes, potentially. That's not that isn't one that I haven't really thought about. I guess unfortunately, because the questions online, I'd love to hear what the person in the audience actually had in mind, but that could be a potential startup that we would look at.
Okay. Okay. Any more questions in the room? Yes. Okay. Can you speak up a bit, please?
Sorry. Yes. Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Is there artificial intelligence role applied in the process of due diligence and assurance services?
It should be.
It should be.
Yes. If you have any ideas, please.
Tricky question recently. Yeah. You mentioned that you work with the NATO Research and Innovation, and do you work with some external also research organizations?
Yeah. Yes. 100%. I mean, we want to build a deep tech investment ecosystem around NATO, and so any research organizations that have identified up and coming technologies that could be applied to defense, security, and resilience would be relevant conversations for us to have. And anyone who is working in any of the current EDTs we'd be interested in speaking to.
Yeah. Okay. A bit more general question that we got before is like, can we aim for commercial success in the defense innovation sector and keep security as a priority? It could be a bit contradictory at certain moments. Yeah?
So I guess this is an online question. So I guess what's meant by that is if we're keeping things very open and commercial, how do we protect them at the same time?
Yeah.
That's part of our mission at NATO Innovation Fund is to protect innovation, and so it's not there isn't a one size fits all approach. I think it would depend on the nature of the technology and the stage of the business, but we want to put in safeguards, and we will put in safeguards, to protect against adversarial capital and also protect against misuse of some of these technologies.
Yeah.
Now, I guess it's impossible to be 100% effective, because then you just say that you rule out 90% of investors and customers and so on. But it's something that we have to just, as a fund and as an organization, constantly monitor and be as diligent as possible and have as much information about what's going on as possible, so then we can make judgment calls and decisions on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Not an easy thing, but tricky.
No, but it's something that's super important.
Yeah. Any more? Yes, please.
I was wondering, do you have any indicative maximum amount that you are willing to invest per startup, or do you are leaving it open?
So in terms of first check, it's up to 15 million euros.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a follow-up question that came just now. When will NIF start the actual investing?
Very soon.
Okay, that was a simple and quick answer. And there's also one. This is very straightforward, I think. Are you hiring? Someone is interested in potential job, maybe even.
Yes, I mean we are hiring for various roles. I mean we'll post them online when they come up, but we're interested in speaking to anyone who's aligned with our mission. That's the most important thing. So if you're passionate about deep tech and dual-use technologies, and you believe that this is one of the ways to affect change and make us more secure, then by all means get in touch.
Yeah. Okay, so that's an encouraging statement, I think. Let's see what else we have here, unless there is also a question here, but I don't see at the moment. So let's go back here. There's a bit more complex question, so let's check it. Security Tech VC, emerging managers, and wonder what chances you see for NIF to find co-investors in funds like ours. So corporates, family offices, how do you assess the fundraising situation for your prospective portfolio VCs?
So we have a partner who is specifically focused on fund-of-fund investments. That's Torsten Klaus. So that would be he'd be the right person to speak to about this. But in terms of how we assess, I mean, we would assess them I guess in some ways how we would assess direct investments. So they would have to be largely geographically focused in the regions that we're focused, investing in similar technologies, similar deep technologies, the EDTs. They would have to have their own LP base would have to be, let's say, aligned with our mission and meet certain requirements. And yeah, as I said earlier, we have we're heavily motivated to invest in managers in regions where there isn't enough deep tech venture capital. Mm-hmm. So in this case, I'm not sure where they are, where they're located.
No, I don't know.
But yeah.
We can always ask for a follow-up from Martin. You can always write in the chat. In the meantime, there is another question also a bit related. So it's about the investment policy in terms of co-investment with national-based VCs interested in defense. So what's your approach to that?
I mean, the ones our approach is the ones within NATO. We're very happy to co-invest with. 100%. We speak to In-Q-Tel on a regular basis, and also NSIF in the UK, mm-hmm. which is a national-based defense VC as well. So
yeah, okay. It's like
happy to talk to them.
All hands on the table to find the best ideas.
Exactly.
Yes, please.
Concerning innovation, you didn't talk so far about space. You foresee an investment in space?
Yes, we do definitely. We're looking at a number of space companies at the moment. So that's a big part of our strategy. In fact, like we have a lot of good inbound deal flow from space companies.
Okay, so I'm looking back in my laptop, but if there is another question, of course, you can always raise your hand and shout. Let's see what we have here. It's quite some questions coming. Let's see here. Yeah, it's a bit of a more like a general approach of NATO, most probably. But this is like going into the fact that, of course, different members, different armies, different circumstances in different countries. And how do you kind of combine that to come up with some research agenda or investment agenda of the whole alliance?
Yeah. Well, I think the research agenda is being driven by NATO itself, not by the NATO Innovation mm-hmm. Fund. So again, in setting out their strategy when it comes to innovation for the long term, identifying these EDTs, and also, I guess, talking about the responsible use and identifying policies for responsible use of these technologies. NATO itself is driving that. We can act as a kind of conduit for a lot of these priorities and so on. It's not up to us to set them. We are just an investment fund at the end of the day, but we can, because we speak to each individual nation, especially when it comes to adoption, we can share concerns and best practices, and that's hopefully that will be a way to indirectly align different institutions. But again, that's not our role. But we encourage that.
Yeah, I see. Okay. Yeah, it's also a bit of a more general one about the global leadership in technology, and how does it affect the research and innovation funding programs in the areas that NATO is active in?
So that's a tricky one.
Yeah.
So in what area, in what military areas does NATO have technology, global leadership? So I think, I mean, that probably refers more to the NATO member states as opposed to NATO itself, because the technology leadership comes from the bottom up, not from the top down. So obviously, US and Europe have are quite advanced when it comes to technologies like AI and semiconductors and quantum. So those are areas that we're very focused on at NIF. And yeah, I mean, it's up to, at the moment, it's largely research and innovation funding is largely driven by national governments, by allies themselves, as opposed to NATO. But NATO has been very effective in identifying the areas of strategic importance, and so I think that they're doing a great job there.
Yeah, well, indeed, but always the coordination is the key.
It is, and that's why that's one of the great things about Diana, is every NATO ally is participating in that, and that can
check the market.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, there is a follow-up question, I would say, to space. Do you rather focus on upstream or more downstream?
I would say both.
Both.
Yeah.
Very open.
Yeah, very
okay.
open, yeah.
Okay. And we have Martin with a follow-up to this investor question. But let's just check. They are focusing on Eastern Europe and Central Europe and Germany. How do you see a co-investment environment?
Yes. No, I think. I guess I should say, just in response to that question, I think things are changing. People's views are changing on dual use and how that corresponds to ESG. So our hope is that the landscape will shift.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Let's see what else we have here. That's a general one, but sometimes simple questions are also needed.
Yeah.
So which tier roles are you focused?
I mean, I would say it's probably 4 and above.
Okay. So. Okay. So kind of a blue sky, not really. You have to kind of have some basis.
Yes, there has to be some
investment fund, quite natural.
Yes, there has to be some kind of maybe not large scale commercial traction, but there has to be some proof of concept at least.
Yeah. Okay, good. Is the NIF can be called an emergency to take the place of non-NATO VCs in defense critical firms? That's interesting.
Yes, that would have to be on a case-by-case basis. I don't know. It would depend on the circumstances, but that's not our main goal.
Let's see. Any more questions, please?
Are all the member states, NATO member states, contributing in the same way to the fund, or there is a different percentage? Or
yeah, there are. I mean, there are different. I mean, there are different contributions from different states. Obviously, some states are much bigger than others, and so that would affect how that would affect their contribution. And not every member state is an investor, so it's only 23.
And what about the company belonging to a country that doesn't participate?
Yeah, so we're mostly focused on the countries that did participate.
Keep a bit safe the whole thing. Okay, thank you. You had a question here.
It's related to this question. For example, we're talking about the companies of the countries that are not participating in NIF, but to determine this, are you judging it on the headquarters, for example, or final owner of the company? How do you judge it?
Yeah, so it's based on, I mean, it's based on their main area of operation, and also the so that would be the headquarters, I guess, but then also the legal entity too. So where they're incorporated.
Yes, behind you first, and then no, like you over fast. Yes.
Thank you. You previously said that in past decades, innovation was mostly deriving from the military sector, then towards secondly to the civilian sector, but today we're facing the opposite process. But still, there are some projects specifically referred to the defense and military sectors that are funded and proceed without civilian partnerships, but then face difficulties in being reversed into the civilian sector, mostly due to the complexity that they reach. So how, for example, how does Diana or does the NIF approach these projects? You just proceed with public fundings? Do you consider possible future involvements towards the civilian sector, or just take into account the military applications?
Well, I think that's a tricky one. I think if you have a company that is largely defense focused and can sustain itself and can grow purely from defense contracts, then they should they should do that, and we need more companies like that. NIF is set up more to focus on dual use, so most of our portfolio companies would not fall into that category. But there are other ways of doing things. Like, for example, you can have a civilian application that spins out of a defense company, for example. And yeah, I mean, we're not against investing in those types of companies, but just the majority of our portfolio we envisage being focused on deep tech with a dual use application.
Thank you.
Yes.
Another question regarding the investment criteria. So do you have any restrictions regarding existing cap table? So, I mean, one thing you already mentioned is, I guess, participation of adversary capital. I guess could be one restriction, but in terms of majority ownership, or is there any minimal stake of founders that they have to have?
I would say there's not like a fixed number, but yes, I mean, obviously, like even with just purely commercial VCs, there'd be a concern if a founder only owns 1% of the business, and there's like a corporate or a silent shareholder that doesn't that owns the majority of the cap table. So yeah, I mean, we take things on a case by case basis. I don't think there aren't any very like specific like numbers, but just coming back to what you were saying before about adversarial capital, that's a big concern for us, and so we would we want to have as much information about that as possible, and then make a decision. But we don't want to be investing in technologies that are critical that end up in the hands of our adversaries. That's the sort of overarching principle.
Yeah, makes total sense. But I guess, as you said, there are some guidelines, but you're still evaluating in that case.
If you have a specific example, I could maybe answer that one. Do you have something specific in mind, or?
I guess there's only a set of conditions. So
yeah.
If there's anything that's set in stone, that this is no.
No, I don't. The thing is, I don't think it should be set in stone because things change. It's kind of like cybersecurity. You can't just like download one piece of software and then just have that as your protection indefinitely. You have to use the sort of means of attack and intervention are constantly shifting, so we have to shift with that. And so I guess just coming back to what I said, the principle is to protect, and we'll do that in any way we can. But for example, if there's an adversary that has 1% of the company, you might think, okay, well, that's nothing, but then they have some sort of side agreement with the founders that they get access to all the IP or something like that, then that would be unacceptable. They could own 15% of the company and just be a silent shareholder, no information rights. All they're doing is well, they would just receive proceeds if they're an exit, that would be better than the first scenario, even if the percentage is higher. So you see, you can't be prescriptive about it.
Okay. So let's see what are other questions coming online. What's the position of NIF within ecosystem regarding the primes and leading areas?
Well, so we a big part of our mission is adoption, and the primes are very well set up in that regard, and they already have these programs with government and so on. So yeah, our position is we see them as potential partners of NIF and potential partners of our portfolio companies. With the one caveat that we are, we're motivated to do what's in the interest of our portfolio companies. So that would be our, but in many cases, it would be in their interest to work with the primes and to sell through the primes. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and there's another one asking about some agreement, AUM, maybe it's some way to allow the fund manager to allocate $1 billion, parts of it.
I'm not sure I understand this question.
Me neither,
Yeah.
actually. So if Sal Sassino is still with us, please feel free to follow it up to be able to get you the answer. So we'll be able to get you the answer. It might happen. This is live. There's also something that we partly discussed, but it's a bit wider. I think about stakeholder dialogue. Do you engage a bit more with different communities active in that, not only with such organizations, but also some other groups?
Yeah, I mean, we talk to accelerators, we talk to other VCs, we talk to universities, also to research organizations, to the innovation branches of the governments that we work with.
Mm-hmm. Is it somehow structural dialogue, or it's just like case by case more?
Well, in some cases it's structural, in some cases it's case by case. But we're still a kind of quite a lean, small team, so we have to be flexible in how we speak to people. But yeah, these are one of our main goals is to bolster the whole ecosystem, and so we want to engage with as many people as possible.
Yeah. Of course, I see. Okay, I'm just looking if there is something new popping up here. Not at the moment. Do you have some questions still here in the room? If not, maybe we can just go to a very general one, but it's always, I think, inspirational to have some examples.
Yeah.
So, it's always better to imagine the potential when you have some examples that you could really follow up and do dual use projects.
Yeah. So, specific dual use startups. I mean, there's obviously a history of dual use technologies that have then had a huge impact on our civilian life as well. So things like GPS and the internet and to a lesser extent radar and sonar have had a massive impact on society and also on the economy. So pretty much anything that any electronic device that we use today has its origins in the defense sector. So I say it's all around us. I think maybe it's because a lot of some of these technologies were developed a while ago. People aren't aware of them, but yeah, everything. And then on the other side, all these the communication technologies that we use, even the things like virtual reality. All these things have applications in the defense sector. So I see there's so much overlap now between the two. If you use your imagination, you can find applications for everything.
Okay, great. There's one more question, one of the last ones, I think. To what extent there is a military strategic view committee to complete the business and financial view within the investment decision-making process?
So There is, I mean, we definitely take that into account when we're looking at deals. So whenever we look at a new opportunity, we think, well, what is the adoption potential of this by government, and yes, largely by defense, but also by security services and even emergency services and other law enforcement, which we consider adoption. So that's a huge part of our mission, of our agenda, of our process. Does it have to be? Do we have to find? We don't have to find a sponsor necessarily, but we would want there to be a potential end user within defence when we look to make an investment. So I would say we're not. The analogy with the corporate VCs, we're not quite as extreme as that. Again, we are an independent VC fund, but we are very aligned with that mission.
Okay. And I will have a bit of a more like Diana relations related question, whether you are a bit more involved in this process now, because there was a call that was launched, the results were, I think, published in October. There's some, the thing is kicking off. You said that you're interested in potential results maybe from that accelerator. So are you involved in this process already, or you just wait the moment and observe?
Well, we hope to meet all of the companies that go through those programs. Okay. We obviously speak to Diana a lot, but we're not. They have their own processes, and so it's not for us to tell them what to do. But yeah, we are obviously we're motivated to invest in the companies that go through the program, and so they have some idea. Well, they have a very good idea of what kind of companies we're looking for as well. So yeah, there's definitely going to be some. Yeah. There's going to be some synergy there.
Okay. Any more questions in the audience? That's the last moment. I don't see any. I think online also not necessarily. So it's actually exactly 1 hour. Thanks a lot for coming, asking, answering to our invitation, and answering all those questions. Well, quite a lot of them.
Yeah.
But yes, we will surely follow up also the developments of NIF and Diana. It seems to be a very interesting topic also to observe and also to promote within our natural stakeholders. And by that, I mean also companies more on daily basis interested in Horizon Europe, but not exclusively. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you.